Good evening, Facebook fam. It's a little warm. I got this light on, trying something a little bit new here. A new Christmas gadget that my daughter got for me. So right now I'm waiting for our guest to come on while I get adjusted. And Shishandra, you could just let me know whenever you're on and we'll go from there. Wait for everybody to come on. Hey, Kalia. Mrs. Ball, where's my buddy? Shishandra, whenever you get on, just let me know. Hey, John. Good evening to everybody that's coming on. I'm waiting for Shishandra. I'm on my page just in case, because it was acting a little different on the other page. So, oh, all right. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. John, good to see you. Shishandra, wave at me, do something. Let me know when you're on, and then I'll bring you on. Hey, Aisha, I'm sorry. In the new year, I'm going to learn how to pronounce people's names right. Hope and pray that everybody is having a wonderful 2019 so far. Hello, Deacon McKnight. Hello, Pastor House. So glad to have all of you on. I'm waiting on my guest to appear, and then we're going to go on. I'm not sure what happened. I know she told me she was getting on, so hopefully she'll be on in just a moment. God bless you, sir. Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you all so much. While you're on, I'm going to ask you all, if you would, while we are waiting for our guest to come on for tonight, if you all would go ahead and share this video. Share it with your friends, family, anybody at all that's a caregiver. If you would go ahead and just share it, even if they're not a caregiver, share the video. They can come back and look at it at a later point. And want to say as well, if you have any questions at any time, anything you want to say, any comments whatsoever, go ahead and post them. Hey, Cedar, how you doing, cousin? If you have any comments whatsoever, go ahead and post them on here. I'm gonna, Khalil, do me a favor, if you're still on, text Shishandra, ask her to text me or tell her to come on my page. I'm not sure what happened, but she's not showing up on my end. So but as I was saying, she said she's logged in. Hold on for me 1 minute, y'all. I'm sorry. No, you got to do it from your phone or your iPad. I'm sorry. That's what it was. You can't come on live on your laptop, unfortunately. But as I was saying, please share it. Share it with a friend, family, anybody that you know that's a caregiver. We are super excited, and I'm going to share this. If you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to my favorite girls. That is actually what this is, my favorite girls Facebook Live, and we are going strong in 2019. So I actually came on from my page, but I'm going to share it to the other page. So those of you that are on there, you can either way, you can go on there, and you can come on here, whichever way. But my favorite girls and Alzheimer's, if you all would go on and like that page, then you can keep up with us. We're actually going to start doing the lives from that page. So right now until everybody, I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out where she is. So go ahead, like that page. It's called My Favorite Girls in Alzheimer's. Those of you that have been on here with me before, what did you ask me? No problem. Shishandra, she's trying to get on her computer, but she can't do it from the computer, so she has to do it from a phone or iPad to get on. And so in the meantime, I'm just going to talk to you all until she gets on here, give you all some background information. But for those of you that have been on here sharing with me, you know that I care for my mother as well as my grandmother. I am the caregiver for both of them. And so out of that, I decided to share this journey that I'm on. It started out with my mom, and then I ended up with my grandmother here. And so from that, God gave me the mandate to make ministry out of the moments, and that's what we've done. And so I started out sharing those mama moments. Those of you that have seen them, you've seen they are hilarious. My mama is she's a comedian in her own right. So we started out with that, and a lot of those we share on the My Favorite Girls page, as well as some other information that is very helpful and beneficial to those who may be dealing with a loved one with Alzheimer's or dementia. There's some very good information that we put out there that we have from the Alzheimer's Net and other support groups. So you'll find that information on there. But in essence, what this is with the live, it's a community that we're building. We are building a community of support for those that are on the same journey that we're on. So if you're a caregiver, every now, there she is. So Shishandra, I'm going to bring you on in just a moment. But for those of you that are on the journey, you know it's not an easy task at all. But one thing that I've learned, and God has definitely shown me throughout this, it's been now for me about 2.5 years. And what I've learned is that God's grace is sufficient enough. And so that is exactly what keeps me going. I'm going to bring Shishandra on real quick, y'all. And once we do that, we'll get started. I'm trying to bring her on, but let's see. Hold on for me 1 minute. Where is she? Because don't see her name showing up. I see you on, Shishandra, but I don't see. Can you add me by chance? Okay, there we go. All right, so hopefully she'll get added on. Shishandra, I tried to add you in, so you may have to send me an invite. I just did it. And I apologize, you all, for the technical difficulties and all that, but she should be on in just a moment. We try to do this where we don't have to bring people to where we are, because technology today will allow more than one person to be on at a time. So, hey, Minister Caldwell, good to see you, sir. I'm trying to get my... Shishandra, if you can, send me a request. If you see where you can do it. I sent you an invite. I'm not sure. Okay. I'm not sure why she can't get on. Are you on my page, Shishandra, or the other one? Hey, Maria. All right. Okay, here we go. I think she... Hold on a second. Go to your bottom. Okay. She texted me and I'm talking to y'all, so I apologize. But we're going to get her on in just a second. I see your name. Are you on your phone? What are you on? Hey, Ella Whitley. But yeah, we're going to get her on. In the meantime, I'm going to send her an invite again. Yeah, you can't do it from the laptop, Shishandra. You have to do it from your phone. That's why you can't pull it in. So if you have the ability, if you can get on your phone, go to Facebook real quick, we can do it. That's why I won't let you do it. Sorry about that. So at any rate, what we're doing, for those of you who may have seen it, if you haven't, hello there. I'm not sure who that is. Let me go down. Hey, Stephen. Um, March, and mark your calendars now. If you all will go ahead and put it on your calendar, March 1st and 2nd, we are having I am hosting My Favorite Girls um, very first Caregivers retreat. And so if you mark your calendars, we're gonna it's gonna be a great event. I'm still trying to add her on, y'all, so I apologize. She was able. Okay, here we go. All right. But March 1st and 2nd, that's a Friday and Saturday, we're going to be hosting the My Favorite Girls Caregivers Retreat. And it is for all caregivers. There she is. Sorry about that.
Hello.
All right.
It's okay. I didn't know I had to use my phone. Didn't know
Yes, and
that.
I apologize because I probably should have told you that before. But it's all right. We're on now. So thank you all so much for your patience and joining us. And so we're gonna I'm gonna stop rambling as much. But as I was saying, March 1st and 2nd, we're gonna host our very first caregivers retreat. For my situation, my grandmother and mother both of them suffer from the diagnosis of dementia. And so when we were looking at the retreat, I did not want to limit it to just dementia and Alzheimer's, simply because, in my opinion, care is care. No matter what type of care you're giving, it is care. And I believe that the same energy, the same love, the same everything goes into it, whether or not you have a loved one who is dealing with dementia, whether or not they are dealing with cancer, any other debilitating disease. And so all of it can be exactly what it is. So it is open to all caregivers. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but right now, because getting started just a little bit, just a few minutes late, and it's okay. But tonight, what we want to do leading up to that conference, I wanted to be able to bring in some other caregivers, because I believe that the caregivers really are they're the heroes in all of this, because not, there are a lot of people who they run away from it for whatever reason. Some people can't deal with it, but at any rate, there are a lot of people out there who have given up and have sacrificed to be able to care for their loved ones. And no particular care is the same, no situation, I'm sorry, is the same, but we all do it. And so what I wanted to be able to do, January, this series is Caregivers. This is my story. That's the name of it, the title of the series. And so all throughout the month of January, we're going to be talking to different caregivers and allowing them to come on and just share their story, just to give you all an idea of what goes on behind the scenes, some of the things that are dealt with, just so you get a better understanding, and to be able to celebrate these people who have taken and given their lives and be able to care for their loved ones and friends and what have you. So again, I'm going to ask you all, share this video, invite your friends to come on. If you have any questions, any comments whatsoever, then please, by all means, put them in the comments. We will acknowledge them. If you yourself are a caregiver, or you know somebody that's a caregiver who may want to come on and share their story, hit me up online. We'll be glad to bring you on. All right. So without further ado, this evening we finally got it on. And so
Hello.
tonight we're kicking off the series with Shishandra Devlin. And so she's on here. She herself, she'll tell you about it, but she is a caregiver. The title of this one is Support for the Caregiver. So I'm going to break off here and just allow Shishandra to introduce herself to everybody. Tell us a little bit about you, Shishandra, and what it is you do, who you are.
Hello. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Shishandra Devlin, and I am a writer, a blogger. I have a blog, Fashion for Him, which is a faith, lifestyle, and encouragement just blog. Um, that's just a little bit about me. Trying to think of what else to share. I do a lot of inspirational posts lately just to be an encouragement just to others. So feel free to follow me on Instagram at Shishandra Writes, and it's most of my inspirational posts. So most of the people that are viewing this may already know me. But yeah, that's what I do. And the caregiving part of it, I was a huge support just recently to my mom, who has been the caregivers for both of my grandparents for like the last probably over 5 years now. And my grandmother passed away actually in November. And so the caregiving doesn't stop even after the people pass away. It still continues because um, it's planning, and then she's still caregiving for my grandfather.
Okay. All right. And she didn't say this, but I'm gonna say this too. She's also, what's your position with the Toastmasters?
Oh, I am an area director with Toastmasters. So if
Yeah.
you are interested, I'm gonna put a plug out there. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Toastmasters, go to toastmasters.org. It's great for improving your public speaking skills as well as your leadership skills. So I am an assistant, not an assistant. I was an assistant area director last year. This year I am an area director, and so I'm over 5 clubs, and I just provide leadership and support to those clubs.
Awesome. So that is Shishandra. And as she said, I brought her on because she was a support to her mom, and she is support to her mom, who cares for her, cared for her grandmother as well as her grandfather. And Shishandra, even in dealing with that, just to get a little, background with that, even with your mom, can you tell us about some of the challenges that you have seen that your mom faced as a caregiver? What are some of the things that she's had to deal with that you can see that may be challenging?
One of the things that I can see that may have been challenging is just help. I don't think people think about it. You may offer the help, or um, they, may ask what the person needs, but sometimes it's just being there to be able to help, or just to step in when it's needed. So over the past few years, I've been able to go home and just help, and just my mom knows if I come, it's okay for her to leave if I was sitting with my grandmother. But I think it's just the help to know that somebody else can step in and be that support for the caregiver, so they can have some alone time, they can get some rest, they can do something to treat themselves, or um, just having just a meal by themselves, or something to do to improve their well-being, because their caregiving is 24/7. It doesn't turn off, and it was something that she did every day. She would go and make sure my grandmother was okay, or my grandfather. And I think that was probably the biggest challenge, having the support there and the help there as well.
Okay. Now, was she an in-home caregiver, or did they live on their
Um,
own and she goes by, or how did that work for
so
her?
for uh, for a few years, it was in home. She would come to their home, so it was in home, and then for the last 2 years, my grandmother was at a nursing home. So it was making sure that she was receiving the adequate care, even at the nursing home. And my grandfather, he lives in an apartment by himself. And so making sure he receives the adequate care, even at his apartment, he has to have nurses that come in because he has COPD. And so he has
Okay.
breathing issues. So she makes sure, his apartment was adequate. Um, nurses were there. He's getting his breathing treatment. She takes him to get his medicine. She takes him to pay his bills. She takes him to go grocery shopping. I mean, the list goes on and on. And for my grandmother, even though she was in the nursing home, you know, she made sure she had clothes. Even at the nursing home, like, we don't think about some of these things. You got to write their names on all of their items so, you know, they don't get them mixed up with everybody else's. And so me going home and helping with buying clothes for my grandmother and, you know, figuring out ways, you know, they seen and, you know, even asking the doctors questions. So I think when you're caregiving, sometimes you're so immersed in it that you may forget questions. And so I would talk to my mom about the care for my grandmother and my grandfather, and I would present questions to her that maybe she didn't think of at the time. So even that was helpful to say, hey, can you ask the doctor about um, these levels for them? And that was helpful because she's in the situation. So she's listening and so much information that she had to consume with what they were going through. So some of the information she would just tell me, and sometimes I would even have to explain it to her just to make sure she understands. So all of that was a part of that whole caregiving process.
Yeah, people don't understand, you know, sometimes it is such a wear and tear. I remember with my grandmother, my mom's mom, when my grandmother came to live with us, she was in a nursing home, but she stayed with us for a little while until my mom just could not handle her being there and be able to take care of us as well. And so she ended up having to put her in a nursing home simply because, you know, she was at that stage where she would try to walk away. She also had dementia. And so she would have to be there at the house while we're trying to get ready. And so it just got to be too much. But I remember those years when my mom would go to the nursing home prior to going to work. She would go to the nursing home to make sure her hair was done, make sure, you know, she's dressed and everything is in order. And she
Mm-hmm.
did that literally every single day, you know. And
Yep.
so there's a lot of wear and tear. And at the time, you know, because I was so young, I really didn't even think about it. To me, it was just, you know, one of those things that happened. But looking back, I'm like, it is a lot. When you have children, you know, and I know that better now because I have children of my own. And so when you're
Right.
talking about a family and you're talking about, you know, just your own life, and God forbid, you know, if you're working, you know, it's a lot. You know, it is a whole lot. And so people don't really look at it or think about it, but
Mm-hmm.
it can be such a strain, especially when you're running back and forth like that. And you know, when you look at it, the statistics right now, according to the National Alliance for Caregivers, there are approximately 43.5 million caregivers.
Wow. Wow.
43.5. That is a whole lot of people. One of the things
That
that
is.
during the Alzheimer's walk that we did this year, one of the things that the person, Mr. Willer, that was over, one of the things that he stated, especially with Alzheimer's, but just caregiving in general, is the fact that caregiving in Alzheimer's, it affects everybody in one way or the other. Either you
Mm-hmm.
are a caregiver to somebody with it, or you know somebody who's a caregiver, or eventually, you know, you yourself may need care for it. So, you know, and when you look at the broadness of just a lot of diseases and what have you, in general, I mean, caregiving is, you know, it's more common now than
Yeah.
ever before, you know, and things that are just simply happening where, you know, people today they're fine, tomorrow different situation, or sometimes today. And so it throws
Sure.
that family member or whoever is there with them in that position. So you kind of never know when it may hit you. But that is like a whole lot of people. And the thing about it is a lot of the care that's being provided is unpaid. When you work full time,
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, God, you know, blessed me that I now work from home, but I work. You know, I have to have somebody here still because I still have to work. But when you're working and you're a caregiver, you know, you have to take off of your job. You know, you have to do things that I remember when I was at FSU, you know, my time dwindled down so far. One hospital stay with my mom, that was 40 hours, a whole week, 40 hours.
Mm.
And then when you consider yourself, if you get sick, and then if you have children and they get sick, you know, so it's a whole lot. But, you know, if you look at the statistics, you'll see it is alarming when you look at what caregivers have to do. And so for you, I know you're here in Tallahassee and your family is not here. So from a distance, you know, how do you work that even outside? I mean, how often do you go home to see your mom? Or do you take
Um,
special trips there so that you can help her?
so last year I traveled a lot for work, which made it, and I had to travel in Florida, which made it an advantage where I could go home a lot. And so I would just go home if for some reason I had to travel over a weekend for work. And I didn't want to drive all the way back to Tallahassee, because I don't like driving at night. So I would just stop in and just stay with my mom. And so then I would just go see my grandmother or during the holidays. But this past year, it was pretty much every other month I was going home and spending time with my family. And sometimes it would just be the weekends, or sometimes it would be week long stays. So that was the time I was able to really go home, especially the past year and a half. And my grandmother got really sick like a year and a half ago, and I actually was able to go home for a whole week and just stay there with her. And you presented a question on the questionnaire that you gave me about the faith-filled atmosphere, because when she got sick they ended up placing her in ICU. And so the faith-filled atmosphere was my mom called, and when my mom calls and something's wrong with my grandmother, because I was raised by my grandmother until I came up here um, to go to college. And so I stayed with my grandmother for most of my life. Um, so I would just automatically come home if she told me something was wrong. And so just to put that out there with the faith-filled atmosphere, because of my grandmother being hospitalized and being in ICU, and me being able to take off the time, like piggybacking off of what you were saying, like taking off like weeks at a time, because I wanted to be there and set the atmosphere. Even though she was placed in ICU at that time, um, her brain activity was normal. She was on a ventilator, but she was breathing more than 50%. So being able to even talk to the nurses and the doctors about that, but setting the atmosphere for people who came into that room, because before I even had got home that one time, they had already, like, people will talk and they're already talking about death. And so just setting that positive atmosphere to say, these are the things that the doctors told me. They told me that she's not on life support. She's on a ventilator. She's breathing more than 50% on her own. She has normal brain activity. She's just sleeping. And being able to pray, being able to sing to her, being able to share just even those positive things with other people that were in my family. But by the end of the week, my grandmother had waken up and she was off of the ventilator. So I share that because of even being long distance, you can go, and when you hear about situations and you're dealing with a caregiver who may be stressed because that is their parent and they want them to be okay, you can go in and say, remind them of the God that you served, and the God that you serve, and how he is a miracle worker, and all of these positive things that the doctors and the nurses are saying, and you stand on that. And so I shared that, just that little piece, because even though I was long distance, I prayed, I fasted, I would call my grandmother and pray, I would call my mom and pray, and just share those things not only with them but with all of my family, to just have faith to know that God is a miracle worker. Even though my mom was tired, because she would tell me she was tired. She is one of 5 kids, but she did mostly all of this by herself. And so even when she would tell me she was tired, I would just be an encouraging word, give an encouraging word to her, or even pray with her, or even when I would go home, take her out to eat, or just whatever she wanted me to do, even if it was just sitting with my grandmother at the time. Excuse me. Even sitting with my grandmother at the time, I would just go do it, because time is so fleeting. I say this to people and we just never know. And I just wanted to honor my mom in that way, because she would call me and share with me of everything she was doing, and I know everything that she had went through over the past years prior to my grandmother passing away, and she's still caring for my grandfather. So
Yeah. And it's not easy, but it is that faith. And that is what I have found to be the greatest strength, is that faith that you have, the faith that you have in God, being able to lean on God, being able to read his word. I mean, and I say it all the time, his grace is sufficient enough.
it
And I've
is.
learned that in such a way that, you know, reading that scripture and knowing that scripture
Mm-hmm.
pretty much all my life, but when you're in it and you realize that, number one, God never allows us to be in a situation without giving us the grace to be there. There is a certain
That's
grace
so
when he
true.
allows you to be in whatever situation you in, that situation comes with grace. And so what we have to learn is how to embrace the grace of God that he's given to
Yes,
us, and to lean into that grace. And that is what helps us. I mean, people ask me all the time, how do you do it? And my answer, it is the grace of God. Now, do I have
yes,
hard times sometimes? Absolutely. Because I primarily do this thing by myself. But
yes, ma'am.
because of his grace, I'm able to get up, keep going, keep moving, and I still work a full-time job. I still have, a 13-year-old who is more active than I have ever been. But it is simply by the grace of God. And, even with my mom and my grandmother,
Mhm.
both of them, church, I grew up in church. I know about church. I know about God because of my mother and my grandmother. And so even
Mhm.
this was the first time. I am 44 years old. And as far as I can remember, this was the very first year that I did not make watch night service. I mean, ever that I can
Mhm.
remember. But I had to realize, because initially I was like, really, because I was going to take them. We started at 10, and my mom will go to bed around about 5:30. When the sun starts going down, that's when she gets ready to go to bed. It's a good thing on one end because she goes to bed, but then on the other end, sometimes she may get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But praise be unto God, He's kept us asleep for the last couple of days. So for that, I thank you.
Amen.
But the very first time that I can remember, and I had to just tell myself, okay, your life is different now. You're in a different situation. And,
Mhm.
what I had to remind myself too is that I'm saved, whether I'm
Yes.
in my four walls at my house or whether I'm at church. I love church. I love being there, but my relationship with God does not dwell just there. I'll put a praise on right here in my house and be just as content. So I had
Amen.
to say, okay. But then when we get up, we got up on New Year's Day, and I told
Mhm.
both of them, I said, hey, we got to pray. God brought us into a new year. Y'all in a new year. So we got to pray. And so, we came together and we prayed. And my grandmother, I
Amen.
didn't realize it until after the fact. I must have had my hand over the speaker or whatever, but she prayed one more prayer. I mean, the quickening
Amen.
and everything, the church mother, anytime
All
you say
right.
pray, she go to speaking in tongues, and I mean, quickening. And even after she
Mhm.
finished our prayer, she was still going. But it's stuff like that. I mean, because, and I keep in my house, I keep that atmosphere going because,
Amen.
you know, yes, the diagnosis is that, but I still believe, and I mean, some people may say, well, you're claiming it because you said no. I'm praying. What I'm doing is exactly what God told me to do, making ministry out of the moments. And so right now, you know, the mind is what it is. But I pray for that. I do believe that there is no sickness, there's no disease, none of that can stand against the power of God. And so I pray, and I do believe that God can heal. And I went online because I was taught, I believe I am under one of the, if not the greatest pastors in the world, Superintendent Gerald Mandrell, and then Dr. Tawanda Davis and the teaching. And, one thing that they've always said is if you can find one person that God has done it for, it puts a mandate on God to do it for you. And so I started searching the internet, like, Lord, I'm looking for people that have been healed. And I found one. I found a man who said that God healed him from Alzheimer's. And so when I'm praying, I tell the Lord, because the Bible says it is with the mind that we serve the Lord. And so I remind him, Lord, it's with our mind that we serve you. So I need my mama mind right so that she can serve you. Now, well, one thing I've learned with Alzheimer's as well, that mind may do what it is, but when it's in you, it is in you. Right now, to this moment, I can say something, and my mom will, in a quick, fast, in a hurry. But now, is the Lord pleased with that? She'll go in a minute. You saved? I ask her, are you saved? And she'll say, yeah, I'm saved. And I say, how you know you saved? Because I know I'm saved. And so, and my grandmother, I mean, prayer is, and I love it. I love the fact that my grandmother is 95 years old. And even with me having her pray on New Year's, one of the things she said was, Lord, keep my mind. And she was praying for people, and she was saying, keep their mind, Lord, keep their mind, and help us to walk obedient to us, and help us. She's 95 years old. That's a blessing to me to even be in that. You know what I'm saying? And so that faith that you're talking about is very important. I keep the Word Network. I go on YouTube, G.E. Patterson, Bishop Jakes. The only problem that I have with that is because my grandmother is church, she church for real, church mother, church. And so if I leave TD on a little bit too long, or if I leave Bishop Patterson on a little bit too long, she is going in. I mean, to the point where one night Bishop Jakes was on, and he kept saying to come to the altar. So I was sitting in my chair on the computer, I was sitting in the living room with her. And so she was trying to get up, and I'm like, Grandma, what are you doing? And she said, well, he said, come to the altar. So I had to tell him, he wasn't talking to you. You can sit at your seat. But
making herself an altar.
That's what, because she still does. I mean, my sister comes over here on most Sunday mornings, and sometimes I'm sitting in church and she will text me because my grandmother has gotten up and walked up to the TV, and she's at the TV with her hands up. Or one Sunday she said she got down on her knees, 95 years old. But I keep it there because, it's still in their spirit. They don't know. My mom, anyway, doesn't know a lot of times what she's doing, what's going on. But one thing for sure, you might be able to touch that body. You might be able to touch that body, but you cannot get to the soul. If Jesus is in there, he is in there. I ain't even say none of that, but that's what it is.
It's
and so
okay. You are sharing. These are ministering moments.
Even as a caregiver, that's one of the things that I will say. I lean totally, wholly, solely on my faith and my commitment to God. And I'm like, that is what keeps my mind when I could be, or the enemy would have me to be depressed. Because I was sharing with Pastor Judy, I think it was yesterday or the day before, but one of the things sometimes that people, and it's not just with dementia, I'm sure, but for my situation with the dementia, it can be very emotionally, it can tear at you in a way that you just would not believe if you're not in it, because you're actually watching your loved one, I mean, literally just deteriorating before your eyes. Right now, as it stands, my mom thinks I'm her sister. I'm her baby sister. I put that mama moment on the other day because that was, I do it, and I tell people all the time when I share my mama moments, I do that because they're hilarious. A lot of them are hilarious. I also share those moments that are not so funny. They're just real. They're the reality of it. But the other day, I had gotten her, she got in her bath and I was getting her dressed, and she was very, very nice that day, hallelujah. And so she kept saying, "Oh, you're so nice." She said, "Oh, I love you." And I said, "I love you
Oh.
too." She said, "Thank you so much. You're the only one that come and take care of me." I said, "You're welcome, sugar." She said, "You the best little sister I got." And I couldn't do that but laugh because, for her, and I was just like, hey, you learn it, but no matter
Yeah.
who it is, if you have a loved one who, you're caring for, whether they have can't, whatever, it can be hard, and so I would strongly implore you, if you don't already, prayer, the word of God. I journal more. I used to write a lot, before I moved to Tallahassee, before I really started with the computer. I used to write a lot, and I kind of got away from it because I started typing everything. But I've learned, man, I go back and I journal now like nobody's business. I have a journal for just about everything, and I pray. I write my prayers out of my journal. And when those hard moments come, I talk to God. A lot of times I write my prayers out. I'm more open when I write, and God hear me the same as he does. And so, Shishandra brought it up, so she started me. I started talking
I'm
about
sorry,
God, and
I
we can get
did.
way
My mom
off
does
there.
some of the same things though. She journals. She's very involved in church back at home. So she journals a lot. She writes down a lot of prayers. She sends me prayers. She shares them with my grandparents as well. So she's really big in her faith as well. So I think that has really is what really has gotten her through just this whole time, this whole period, because I know it can be a lot on one, even in your sense, caring for two people, and um caring for one going to the nursing home and then caring for another going to their place of residence. So I mean that can be a lot, but faith is really, even on my part from long distance, has even really got me through. And even the scripture that talks about in our weakness he is our strength. That was a big one that I stood on in November when I went home the Tuesday. My mom told me to come home, and that my grandmother was in the hospital, and she was awake. And by that Friday, like you said, that she deteriorated in her health, and by that Friday evening, she ended up passing. But that was the scripture I stood on for that whole week, and even the weeks to come, with preparing for her funeral. That in my weakness, he is my strength. And so I completely agree with everything you're saying. You have to be able to go back to the word. And my grandmother raised us in the church. So going back to the word and making sure I'm standing on my faith, and listening to the sermons, reading the Bible, completing devotionals to make sure that I'm in tune with God and what he has me to say and offer to my family and friends.
Yeah, very, very important. And you learn. I mean, because what can happen, and that's in general, the enemy will bring something to your mind, and if you're not careful, I mean, you have to quickly, he'll make you think all kind of stuff, and you have to quickly take that away. That's why the Bible said, think on these things, those things that are pure and just, and all of that stuff. Because if you don't, especially being there, and that's why, I know people do it, but I can't even imagine doing this without a relationship with the Lord. I can't imagine it. I mean, I know
Yeah.
people do it all the time, but I can't even imagine how it would really be for me if it weren't for the fact that I have a
Faith.
relationship with the Lord, my faith, and understanding, like you said, that in those weak moments, in those moments, because they do come. That's the
Yeah.
reality. I don't cry a whole lot about a whole lot of things. I don't. But every now and then, it can be heavy. But learning
Yes.
how to take and, as the Bible say, cast that stuff on him, that has
Mhm.
been life for me. And so, to each his own, but that's my thing. Hey, that is the best way to go. And so I'm gonna come on back over here. One of the other things that I wanted to ask you, even with that, what has been your most rewarding and most challenging things about, in the midst of supporting your mom and supporting your family with that? What has been your most challenging time with that?
Well, the most rewarding was just being able to spend time with our family, um, with my mom, with my grandmother. I think we sometimes we take for granted that people may not be there or that they are there. And so the most rewarding thing I would say is just, spending the time with my mom, seeing how much my mom even grew in those moments and how she stepped up, because she didn't have to do it. Other people didn't do it, but she really stepped up. So just seeing her throughout just this whole process, and just seeing her stand on her faith and just take on even just improving the relationship that she had um, with my grandparents, that was rewarding for me. The challenging thing is what we talked about already, is just seeing their health decline. That was like the hardest thing for me, because I grew up seeing my grandmother as this very strong woman. Like, the grandmother in the family is like the pinnacle of the family, and just this maternal matriarch. And it was just like, I saw over the years her health decline and her not be herself anymore. And so that was the most challenging thing for me to watch. But still be there and sit with her, even if we didn't say anything to each other. Just know that, just sit there with her, so she knew I was there. And for both of them, that has been the most challenging thing for me.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
say all the time, just like you say, I mean, everybody does not take the responsibility. And I say responsibility, everybody doesn't do it. They don't want to do it, and I won't go into detail about any of mine, but,
Hmm.
somebody has to step up. And I tell people
Yeah.
all the time, for me, one of the things that I look at and the thing that I consider the most, even in making a decision, especially when it comes to my grandmother is not blood, but to me, family don't always consist of blood. She's been the grandmother that I've had since I
Hmm.
can remember. I knew my mom's mom, but we lived in a different city, and so we weren't close. But my grandmother that's here with me now, she has been a part of my life since before I can remember. And so
Hmm.
it was a no-brainer for me when the time came and I got the call. There was no matter of question. There was no, well, let me think about it. It was, okay, I'll be there to pick her up. Simply because I look at it as, you know, sacrifice is sacrifice. Is it a
Hmm.
lot? Absolutely. But I always consider the fact that as a child, I don't know every single one of the sacrifices were made,
Hmm.
but I do know of the sacrifices that my mom made, that my grandmother made. Does it take away
Yes.
from anybody else? No. Would
No.
it be nice to have more hands on deck? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that
Uh-huh.
I remember the sacrifices. As a parent, now that I have children, I understand sacrifice even more. And you realize that as young adults, as the baby boomers, and statistics show even now that there are more millennials that are caregivers because there's a lot of other things that are going on. And so now you have caregivers, and I didn't realize it, but there are a lot of children who are caregivers for their parents. And I'm talking about between the ages of like 9 on up,
Mhm.
who they go to school, but when they come home, they have to prepare, have to be caregivers for their parents. I didn't realize that in my research. And,
Mhm.
even with the conference I'm sorry, the retreat that we have coming up, I decided to include a special session for the children simply because a lot of times the adults get the information and they give the adults, how to cope and how to deal, but not too many people deal with the children. And for me, that came because I have a 13-year-old that's here in the house with me. I have a 21-year-old who she's not a child, but, Kaylin is here. And so there's some behaviors and some things that she's seen that, I make sure because I ask, are you okay? What have you, but we don't always know. Sometimes as adults, we
Yeah.
can't put our feelings into words. We can't put our emotions into words.
Mhm.
And so if we can't do it, imagine the child who has to also be a part of this because,
Mhm.
in our situation, we moved in with my mom to be able to assist with her health. And so now you have a child that's in the situation. How do
Mhm.
they deal? And so we actually have a special session just for the children that they will come in and be able to deal with that,
Yeah.
So go
And
ahead.
I look forward to being a part of that because once you said that, because I just looked at it from the part of supporting my mom as a caregiver, and my mom will share this testimony as well because she shared it with people, but it made me reflect on just me growing up. I was a caregiver because I was one of those little 9 or 10 or 11, 12-year-old children who had to help my mom because she was addicted to drugs. She was addicted to crack cocaine. And so when she would get large sums of money, she would give it to me for me to hold so she wouldn't spend it on um, drugs, or if she needed me to pay a bill, like I could help her with that. So I grew up being one of those kids who had to provide care because of my mom being on drugs. And so we don't even think about caregiving in that sense. The children who grow up who are living with parents who are on drugs, and so they have to give care either not either for themselves or to their other siblings because their parents are on drugs, or their parents are dealing with some type of addiction or an illness. So and that's a big thing, and I like that you're doing something that's geared to the youth because sometimes we forget about them, and that it may caregiving this affects them as well. If I know my nieces and nephews used to go to the nursing home every day with my mom. She would take them up there after school to see my grandmother, and so when my grandmother passed, my niece didn't even really want to talk about it. She's 15. She's old enough to know what's going on, but it was her coping in her own way. And I told her if she wanted to talk about it, she could. But one of the things I did to include her within the whole celebration of life process is she helped me with picking out what my grandmother was going to wear. She was so excited. But that was part of her way of coping. She was so excited and was like, Auntie, what do you think about this? She helped me pick out her dress and some of the jewelry she wore, and you should have saw her eyes light up. So even though she didn't want to talk about it, she wanted to help. So everybody deals with the whole for the youth. They deal with it a little bit differently than adults because some of us are aware, some of us are not. I remember when I was 10 years old, my uncle Bobo stayed with my grandparents and all of us, even my mom stayed with us because, again, she was on drugs. And we got so close to him, and he taught me how to cook, how to make sweet potato pies. And he ended up having to be rushed to the hospital. And he ended up, I remember that was the first time I went to, like, I remember going to a hospital and somebody going in and not coming out. And that
Wow.
bothered me to the point that I did not like hospitals after that
Wow.
because of that reason. And it was like, so as adults, we have to be mindful that this also affects youth, even if they are younger. I was 10 years old, but I remember it so vividly that, we're all sitting in that waiting room waiting to find out, and he just never comes back out. So all of that has to be taken in consideration, even with the caregiving aspect of um, just the caregiving aspect of everything.
Yeah, yeah, it's very important. I see it God has blessed me with some wonderful children. And so I don't have to fight, and I don't have to, even though I would make them anyway, but just from Kaylin, and Kaylin is that Kaylin, that's Kaylin Cares. But
Yeah.
I mean, she is to the point where it's like it's just natural, I mean, she's Miss Helper. Sometimes I have to tone her help down a little bit, but overall, I mean, she's like very attentive, very, mommy, I'll get grandma's water, or I'll walk her to the restroom, or I
Mhm.
don't have her doing major things, but the things that she doesn't ask me. A lot of times she'll do it, and
Right.
so
Mhm. They
even
like
with
help.
that, yeah, because you want to know, you want them to be able to deal. Just like adults, we deal, and so we have to consider our children and where they are and be able to give them that outlet as well. And I think it is very important. And so that's exactly why we're going to do that part of it. Um,
Yeah.
and this has been great to me. This has been really great.
Thank you.
Even as
This is
we
awesome.
get ready to kind of wind it down, just from your perspective, from everything that you have seen, everything that you have been a part of, um, even in looking at that, when you look at someone else or consider someone else from your stance, what advice would you offer to other people regarding the importance of just support? Because that's what we're talking about tonight, the support of the
Mhm.
caregiver. How important, from your stance, what advice would you give to people who may be long distance, who may be thinking, well, I'm too far away to help, I'm in California, they're in Florida. How am I going to help? What would you tell somebody who from a distance says, what kind of help can I be?
I think even from a distance, you can be a great help. Um, it's not even just the encouraging words, the calling, the checking on the person to say, how are you doing? Even sending them a card with like a gift card, or a cash apping them if they are, into technology like that, coins to say, hey, I thought about you. Maybe this will help. Maybe you can send them a card. Hey, you're in my thoughts. Go treat yourself. Go out to a restaurant. Even, sometimes people don't like to be asked, but asking them, like, I know I'm not there. What can I do to help? Um, I feel like even from afar, you can still be a help. Even if it's just encouraging words, supporting them, especially if it's like Cali to Florida, that's really far. But you can still do those little things. There's so many, like, just the internet and technology now is so advanced that you can even order meals to be sent to people, houses, things like that. If the person they're giving care for needs medical supplies or needs new clothing or whatever it is, just even sending a gift card to help them with that is just a big help. Or even sending something like a spa day for the caregiver, or if
I,
you're able to yeah, if you're able to be in town, just going to sit there with them for a little while. Maybe that person needs to take a nap, or maybe that person needs to shower, or whatever the circumstances may be. I feel like never count yourself out as being a help, because there's so many ways that you can help that aren't even financial or monetary. It's just praying for that person, being a support by providing encouraging words, or just listening. That's a big thing. I listened a lot to my mom. I would sit there and listen, and if she asked me questions about feedback, like to give her feedback, I would answer. But sometimes people just want you to listen because they need to get this stuff that they're carrying around as caregivers off their chest, because it can be hard for them.
yeah. And that's very important. Very, very, over the Christmas break. That was during probably about a week, week and a half prior to Christmas. Sometimes I just go and I look at the moon because I'm like, is it a full moon? Because sometimes, my mom will go into these states where I'm just like, what is really going on? Like, and so there was like a whole week, week and a half where 3:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, she would just get up and just be up. And she's like, we got to go. And I'm like, no, we already home. No, we got to go. Clothes in hand and everything. And so, one of these mornings I was up because there was some things that I was already, I started the blog. That's another thing. I'll tell you about that too. I've only blogged once so far because I do a whole bunch, but they're coming. More are coming. But at any rate, I was thinking about it because I thought about it from my perspective. You know, I don't always like, sometimes when you are used to helping people and you help people, sometimes it's hard to kind of ask.
Yeah.
Some people would say it's pride, however you look at it. I think for a lot of people that are always giving and giving and giving, sometimes it's hard
Yeah.
to receive. I'm learning how to be a receptor though. But, I thought about me because here's reality. Caregiving, especially when you do it alone, it can be one of the loneliest places there is because you
Yeah.
don't get, very few people call just to say, how are you? People
Mhm.
may ask how the people you're caring for are doing. Very few people
Mhm.
ask, how are you?
Mhm.
And very few people will actually wait for you to answer. That's just normal. That's natural, even in our world. That's just society as a whole. It's a cliche. Hi, how are you doing? As you're walking by, not even stopping to listen. And
Mhm.
so it can be lonely. And so
Yeah.
on those days when, for me, I kind of feel like
Mhm.
I have two toddlers, no disrespect in that level, but that's kind of how things are, where it's like I feel like I have twins. And so, kind of like children, when you have children, you learn how to sleep when they sleep and you get up when they get up. Because if you don't, when they get up, they're like, is no going back to sleep for you. And so,
Mhm.
that's kind of how it is. My mom gets up very, very rarely is she going to go and get back in the bed. And so if she gets up at 4 and she doesn't go back to bed, then guess who's up? And so literally something as simple, it may seem like something all insignificant, so insignificant to someone else.
Mhm.
But being able, like before I moved over here, like every Sunday, and my children would tell you, they knew after I cook dinner and make sure that my family is fed, I am going to bed. That was every Sunday. Like without question, 2 or 3 hours, I am going to sleep. That's like a thing of the past. I don't know what it's like
Mhm.
to be able to just lay down and take a nap. Like literally, I have no idea what that feels like anymore because I don't get to do that. Like if my mom is up or if my grandmother is up, I am up. And so if they've gotten up at 6, me too. And so what I've had to start doing to kind of adjust me is I go to bed earlier. And so, I don't wear myself because I still work a 40-hour a week job. And so I still have to function on those people's job because I still need my check, you know. And so you have to adjust, but something as simple as somebody stopping by and saying, hey, go take a nap. I'll sit out here and I'll watch them. Because I kind of refer to it as the terrible twos. That's kind of the stage. My mom is in like the terrible two stage where, you know, you better not put anything down that you want to see again because you will search for it. For like I have cameras now, so I'm gonna see what you're doing. I can see you, but um, yeah, like you put something down and it's like gone. It's like, and you're wondering like, how in the world did she get Like, what? I put my keys down one day. I put my keys down. I cut my car on, put my keys down. I walked out the room, my keys are like gone. And I was like, what? But just so happened she was holding them in her hand. And so it's like you can't do that. But the simple things like that, and I put that in my blog because I'm like, that is the reality of it. I mean, sometimes just being able to take a nap. I cook because that's what I do. I like home cooked meals. Both of them, they like them. My mother is picky, even in her state. She will not eat anything. And so pasta, that's a no. But she wants a home cook because that's what she's used to. So I cook, but she eats out too when I buy it. But something as simple as, hey, here's a meal. You know, go do it. I mean, it means a lot. Okay. And I say that because sometimes people are just not honest. I'm learning how to be even the more and say, no, 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 no. I could use this, because what you realize is it's a lot of wear and tear. And what I don't want to do is wear me out that because statistics show, God forbid on my end, but statistics do show that a lot of times caregivers end up getting sick and passing away long before the person they're caring for because it's the weight of it all. And so I shared even in my blog because I look at me and, you know, yeah, on a lot of levels, I'm okay because I make myself okay. But I think about other people and what other people may be faced with. And I'm saying, yeah, this would be good because, you know, you can't go it alone. And I'm learning how to pick up the phone and say, hey, can you? Because Superwoman can't do it all. I mean, mother, I work, you know, and Kaylin's life is busy. And now Destiny, she's getting ready to go to school down at UCF. So guess who's gonna be on the road sometimes? Yeah. And so you have to learn, and I'm learning to say, hey, can you do this? Sometimes it's hard. I'm not gonna, tell the story. Sometimes it's a little harder than normal. And sometimes you know how it is. Sometimes that thought is easy to say, well, they already know my situation. Why they can't just, what I'm saying? It's easy. But sometimes it does take you saying, hey, can you come and assist me with this? Can you, I mean, for me, because something as simple literally as being able to jump in your car and run to Walmart. You can't do that anymore if you don't have, especially in my situation. I used to be able to run to Walmart, come back, not anymore because you never know what could happen in the process. And so, you know, if you're out there, as somebody who is not a caregiver, and my thing is what I want to hear, I want the feedback as well, because even when we do this retreat, we want to be able to deal with some of these areas, so I want to know too, what are those things that you need, thankfully, and I'm praying that it's still the same. I have to contact them and make sure, but even during the retreat, I was talking, this is, the favor of God, but I was talking to someone at the Alzheimer's. We had a post event. And one of the things that I want to be able to do during this retreat is I want to be able to give away a weekend for a caregiver to just go off. Go off the theme for the retreat is breathe. And I did, this actually came to me about 2 years ago to do this, but for whatever reason, life happened and so on and so forth. And so I had some changes and everything. And so I just hadn't had the opportunity. But this year I was determined because it's something that would not leave. It's something that was still pressing on me to do. And so I themed it breathe because it's the first thing that came. Actually, I had gone out, my aunt, my mom's sister, also has dementia. And so I had gone out to visit with her, take my mom out there, and my cousin who lives with her, he was there, and it was his birthday. And when I walked in, he just, he asked me for a hug, and he just broke, and I said to him then, and that was before, my grandmother came, and I wasn't totally, but I said to him then, I said, man, you gotta be able to take a break. You have to be able to take a break and step back from it all and breathe, or you're gonna kill yourself. I was talking to him, but I was talking to me too. And so that is where it came from, because you have to step back from it. What I had to learn is that as much as I want to, I can't do everything. And so now I had to learn, baby, you got to take a break. You have to, mentally, physically, the whole nine. And for me, I had a lot of things going on at one time. And so I wouldn't break away, because in dealing with some other stuff, this became my outlet. It took my mind away from other things. But I had to realize, you're going to get away, or you're going to end up, needing somebody to care for you. And so now my weekends have become like sacred to me. Like Friday evenings and Saturdays, I get away. And sometimes my mom like, oh, we about to go. No, 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 we're not. I am. And because I had to realize. And so even with this retreat, that is the whole idea behind it, to be able to bring together these caregivers who need that moment, because literally that's all it's going to be. Prayerfully, as we continue, it may be more, but for right now, that Friday evening, and just so you can go ahead and put that out there, but that Friday evening, it's just going to be a night of relaxation. We're going to bring in a live band. We're going to bring in some different things. We're going to have some people that can, bring in some massages and different things like that. But it's just to sit back, relax, and breathe. Have that moment where you can just step back from all of it, among other people who are on this same journey, where you can come together and just relax. And we're building that community. We're building that community of support, because I'm strong today. I pray I'm strong tomorrow, but I might not be. But if you're strong and I'm strong and we're connected, we both have strength. And that's what I believe in. So that is what this retreat is all about. And then Saturday, we're going to come together. We have some healthcare professionals that are going to come in, some other people who have been in this thing a little bit longer than us, that can help us even the more to be able to deal, so that we can go ahead, we can take that breath, we can get our win and go back and do it again. That's what it's all about. And we're building those connections, so that if I'm having a moment, there's a million of them online. I promise you there are. But there's nothing like being right here in the city with somebody that you can call and say this, that, or the other. Being connected to people who, everybody may not be in a relationship with the Lord, but there's some of us who are, that will be there, who you can call and say, I'm having that moment. And that person can pray with you. That person can, listen, can provide strength, can be there, because we all need it, And so whenever I post, I always say, we are in this thing together. I'm not going to sit back and just be in it and just, no, there is no woe is me. No, there's an opportunity for me to be able to take this situation, as somebody said to me earlier, to make that lemonade out of the lemons. It may be bad, but I promise you, and I posted this the other day on Facebook, I guarantee you that no matter what situation you find yourself in life, if you look at it, you can find some good. And if you look at it and you can't, create it. You have an opportunity every day to create what you can't find if it's not there. This started out, I wanted to do a support group because when I looked for local, they only had one that I saw. And so my thing was, no, there has to be more than one because in that one, they offer that 6. Other ones, they have them, I'm sorry, but they're not offered after 5 o'clock. Well, most people have to work. And so I wanted to go out and stuff because my thing is they don't have it, we'll create it. That's what I believe. And so that's what I was looking to do, but life happened and circumstances changed and I couldn't do it. And so this is what God told me to do. Go online. You got a whole bunch of people. And so that's what we're doing because somebody out there, will connect and realize that, you know what? It's hard, but I can make it. And that's what this is about. So March the 1st, March the 2nd, mark your calendars. You can go to my website. I'll put it on the link afterwards, but I do have a website. It is Priscilla, Priscilla, JEANLOU hyphen LOUIS hyphen LOUIS. I put it all in the comments, but go to the website. There is a registration online for the caregivers. For the caregivers, it will be a free event. We are accepting sponsorships. We accepting donations because we just want to be able to embrace these caregivers. That is wholeheartedly what it's all about. We want to be able to embrace them. We want to be able to love them. We want to be able to strengthen them so that they can get that second win and come. I often say, and for me, caregiving for me is simply love that's wrapped in a matter of choice. You have a choice every day on what you do. And so caregiving, it's love wrapped in a matter of choice. You choose to do it. And if you're doing it, we're here for each other. Simple and plain, just like that. All right. So thank you all. Shishandra, thank you so very much.
You are so welcome.
Thank
You are
you.
so welcome. I love what you're doing.
Thank you so
I
much.
love what you're doing. Love you, and just keep it up, and I will be here as a support.
Thank you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much. So y'all
You're
share
so
this when
welcome.
you get off, share it. It will be on YouTube a little bit later because we have a YouTube page. So if you have not liked the page, it is My Favorite Girls in Alzheimer's. That's the Facebook page. YouTube is the same. It's My Favorite. Everything is synonymous. My Favorite Girl in Alzheimer's. So you could go on, subscribe to the YouTube page, like the Facebook page. Like I said before, we post different things out there. On my website, I have a page out there that is called My Favorite Girls. And on that page is where you will find mama moments. I mean, some of you have looked at our mama moments, and what I found out is that a lot of people look forward. I talked to Mama Wesley the other day, and she told me I look forward to them. I have several people who say because they're funny. So they're out there. You can go on there if you need a good laugh for the day. Go on there, look at the mama moments, and you'll see on there, and I have it on the website. Because this is the thing, you gotta laugh. Sometimes you gotta laugh to keep from crying. Is it all peachy keen? No, absolutely not. But you can make it whatever you want it to be. And that's the reality of it. It depends on how you choose to look at it. So you can make good out of it, you can make bad of it. Whatever you choose. It's a matter of choice. And so go on there, check out the website. There's some books. There's several books that I have read. One in particular that I totally like is the one with Dan Gasby and his wife, and it's called Before I Forget. I think it is a phenomenal. If you are a caregiver, you want that book in your library. I promise you, you want it. It's on the website. If you click on the book itself, it'll take you to Amazon, and you can go on there and purchase it. I think it runs about $9.99, but that is one that you definitely need. There's another one out there, Grace for the Journey. But all of those resources that have been help for me, I have placed them on there. And as I read different things, as I find out information, I share it because I want to be able to educate as many people as I can concerning this, not just educate, but strengthen and help you to know and to realize that you are not alone. You're not in this fight by yourself, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's cancer, whether it's COP, whatever it is, whether or not you're dealing with the caring for a child, it doesn't matter. You know, you are not in this fight by yourself. There's a whole bunch of sisters, brothers, friends, aunties, uncles, whoever. We're all here in this thing together, and we got your back. That's just simple and plain how it is. I'm available. My information, I'm on Facebook. You can hit me in the comments. You can private message. However, if I can assist you, if I can pray with you, on this journey, that's what we're here for. That is it, plain and simple. Okay, hit Shishandra up. Give them your Shishandra rights again. What's your information, Shishandra?
You can go to fashionforhim.com. That's fashioned for him, and it's HEM.com. And then you can follow me on Facebook. You can like my page. You just look for Shishandra Devlin, or go to Instagram and you can look me up by name as well, or Shishandra Rights. Yes.
All right. And I had it wrong on the flyer. I apologize. I put HIM. It's HEM. I'm sorry. I'll change that for you all. But look her up. If you're interested in Toastmasters, hit her up. It's a wonderful organization. Hit her up. But at any rate, just know that we're here. We'll be back next Thursday at this particular time. I cannot tell you who the guests will be because I haven't confirmed them, but I promise you we're going to have somebody else great on here that just simply sharing their story, giving their, moment and strengthening, showing you the strength that comes and just being able to share, being able to, just know that I'm not in this by myself. So thank you, Shishandra. You are a hero.
You're so welcome.
Extraordinary.
You're so welcome. You are too. You have
a
blessed night.
You too. Thank you all. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed evening. Much love. Good night.